Basil, you have this really robust teaching around essential states, and so many of them are metals, minerals, colors. I'd love for you to sort of explain what you mean by those essential states.
Sure. They sound very poetical and like metaphors.
Yes.
I am a scientist as well as a poet, you know. In my journey in the spiritual realm, I was very skeptical about all of those Kundalini and Shakti and colors and light. I was afraid of them. I thought this is too much Indian and too much curry, and I don't want to, get into that. I wanted something real, something grounded, something that I can understand scientifically, at the same time admire its beauty poetically, creatively. So in the spiritual unfoldment, I kept checking what could, these manifestations that show themselves in my vision, in my inner seeing, and in my inner sensing. Could they be interpreted scientifically? And I kept with that. I didn't block the unfoldment, the visions, and trying to differentiate from visions of images to differentiate it from visions that feel substantial, that has sensations to it. I could imagine a vision of a fairy or an angel, but can I feel it? And is it palpable? And does it have a frequency or location? I didn't have the equipment to measure it. The only thing I could measure it with is the sensations in my body, and also with the friends that I was journeying with and the different teachers that I met. And in this unfoldment from energetic plane and psychological issues to more and more spiritual dimensions, a certain domain began to open. And that certain domain had all kind of effect on us as human beings. It could feel like a warmth sometimes, or a coolness, a lightness, or a density, smoothness, or solidity, variety of sensations to it. And when I allowed my inner seeing to be free to look and not doubt it so much, not believe it so much either, because I'm still skeptic till the last minute, But I also didn't want to throw the baby with the bathwater, that something beautiful is happening. Through that unfoldment, and through the various kind of sensations and images and visions, a grander vision to open of a dimension, a really magnificent dimension, that is coexisting with our dimension. Call it a parallel universe or parallel universes. And it's made of subtler frequencies, And those frequencies, we don't sense them because we are so thick-skinned, we are so blocked, we are so armored in our body and our sensitivity, except for very few that have the gift of, birth by virtues and blessings, and they could sense those domains, and most of the time they end up in a mental hospital or, either praised as a saint or rejected, but we don't get the scientific interpretation of it. Now science has advanced a great deal, has opened up a great deal to realize that there is in this existence some kind of a field, and that field has a pure potentiality. That field can manifest itself or through certain mechanism in gradations, we usually don't sense, but maybe some spiritual people sense and see and feel. But at least now the mind is open for something like that, the potential of a field of infinite potentiality.
Would you call that the 0-point field in quantum physics?
Could be 0-point field. It could be the same field as Buddha saw as enlightenment. It could be the same as the unified field Einstein touched on and didn't go to the depth of it. You know, variety of names, or it could be what people call God, or some people call Allah. You know, so many names, so many confusion with the tongues and naming. You know. But they all agree on the existence of something that is miraculous in its nature, that's awesome. When we feel it, fills us with awe, with reverence, with beauty, with richness. And that this field, we are learning more and more, differentiate itself, or can be differentiated, you know, in different frequencies. And those different frequencies could be, could have colors and lights and textures and densities. You know, long time ago, there was only one light, white light, sunlight, you know. Then somebody put a prism and we saw rainbow, and, you know, and somebody put another machine and they discovered alpha, beta, X-ray, omega. Then the universe is humming with all kind of frequencies, you know. And at least in my journeying, as I went through gradations of those layers and landed in the field, you know, or let's say the opposite for me. I landed in the field, you know, and started from the mountaintop to descend into the descent journey. The ascent journey, they talk about the ascent journey and the descent journey. You go through your spiritual evolution till you get enlightened, and from enlightenment you come back to life more integrated, more integrating your essence, your being, as many dimensions as really needed. I was fortunate or unfortunate by being jolted in enlightenment, you know, and awakening. Then I started the descent journey. And the descent journey was going into different dimensions of reality. Some of those dimensions felt and perceived in my inner perception and in my inner senses as crystals. And when I see or sense crystals, the state that comes with it is always awakening. I feel awake. I feel as if I was under some kind of sleep or hypnosis or unconscious, and the crystal frequency, you know, feel it as solidity in my body, very solid. And in my vision, I see it as a crystal, shining, luminous with colors or clarity, you know, and the state is awakening. So little by little, associated that. And I discovered later on that, yes, the crystal dimension is associated with awakening in the Tibetan and in other lineages. They know about the crystal dimension, and it is associated with the awakened mind, you know, and it produces a certain frequency that I call nowadays radiance, or they call the clear light of the void. It's like a crystal emanating radiant or clear light of the void, or transparent luminosity. That is beginning to be known, and there are so many different names and perceived differently. Then another dimension, I experienced a sensation that was not as sharp and hard as the crystal, but close to it. There is hardness to it. I feel like my whole body is like very hard and sharp, and my consciousness is very focused and alert and cohesive. And when I look at what is there that's giving me this effect, it's a beautiful effect. What is that? Then I discover that it's diamond. It's not crystal. You know, diamond gave me a sense of consciousness, and consciousness is different from awareness to me. Awareness is has undifferentiated quality. You see things as just as they are without the differentiated knowledge. While when the diamond comes, it gives you not only that kind of awareness, you know, but also add to it consciousness in the sense of knowing that this is a chair and this is a computer and this is a, diamonds give knowledge and gives understanding and gives the ability of articulation and definition, while crystal dimensions does not care about that. That's why you see.
Basil, would you say a little bit more about this experience of diamonds? I mean, just say a little more about your personal experience with that.
With the diamond. I mean, the first time I encountered this diamondness was in 1976. I had that experience of reaching the awakened mind through the grace of my teacher, Tartantuku. The transmission really jolted me from the dimensions. I was before that a meditator and a therapist and all of those things. And I was hung up in the dimensions of light. I loved light. Receiving white light and a green light and doing healing with light was beautiful. And in his presence, I had to do a lot of work to reach this level. And in his presence, as if he took me to a higher octave, in which the light, as if the particles of the light began to dissipate. And there was just clear light, clear luminosity, It was so bright, so pleasant, so uplifting, after going through stages of darkness and disorientation. But his presence kept me steady, Like he set my GPS in tune with his GPS and we cruised. And I landed in this beautiful state. And he said, Rinpoche, this is, like, wow, this is just nothing but nice. He said, ha, 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 I give you nothing and you receive nothing, And he was really happy laughing. And I started laughing because it is, a nothing, but it is a luminous presence. It's no doubt, it's a field of the most high frequency you can really imagine. I don't know whether we have now the tools to check that frequency. They say that, like I hear in Europe, there is a few machines now, frequency checking machines, like the Oberon is one, Beamer is one, and one of them is this machine, Beamer. They say it can detect the frequency of the absolute. This is the absolute being, and it can transmit it back to you, and it helps the body goes into relaxation, And I honestly believe all the spiritual dimensions will be transmitted scientifically. They will all be, you want gold, you push this button and you get gold, and you want crystal, you get, I think they are all going to be reachable. And that's the diamond age coming. I think it's all going to be reachable because it's a scientific spiritual universe. So that state exalted me, opened me up. So when I went home, every day I was body-oriented therapist. So I call upon the state to land in my body. I wasn't excited about dissolving in it and going into samadhi and all of those things. I didn't like these things. I felt if this is real, it has to change my molecular structure. It has to come in my body. It has to release some of my tension, some of my pain. I need to feel it go all the way to my fingers and to my toes. So every day I sense the presence of the pure being, and I ground myself. I meditate on belly center, on Hara, allowing the presence to land more and more. And after months and months, one day I was meditating and I felt as if I am not anymore my body. My body became into luminosity and lightness. And I was some kind of pure awareness, pure consciousness. And I was focusing, playing with a center above the head. There is a center above the head. It's called the Mah center. I thought if I am there, what would I see? And usually I was a chicken. I didn't want to go and astral and all of those things, like get me here. I just want to have my daily life together. So, but I dared that time. I went there, sat in that luminous field above there, and I looked down, and I saw what was supposed to be Faisal sitting on his pillow meditating. I saw an entity, in the same form of Faisal, the same form of the body sitting in lotus, but made of diamonds and crystals and jewels, ornamented jewels. The body was made like a pearly presence, lotus, I mean, breathtaking entity sitting, occupying my body, you know? And I remember I fell in love. You know, I thought, no wonder I've been so narcissist, because this is the one I've been seeking, and this one is worth being in love with. And honestly, it's the healing of narcissism. You know, narcissism is to be 100% narcissist in order to heal. You know, you really need to reach the self-love, but it's not the ego self-love, but the love of this entity. And I remember I didn't know what to call it. I know that it was mostly dominantly diamonds. And I remember the diamonds mostly were green and blue and gold emanations and all of those richness. And I remember opening a book I used to have. It's called Encyclopedia of Spirituality, and reading about the Taoists. And the Taoists were talking about making of diamonds and making of pearls. That we as human beings are born with a bundle of energy, a chi, a prana energy, and by learning the art of harnessing this energy and maybe compressing it or doing something to it through practice and focus and intention, it can be cultivated and can be transformed into richer frequencies, like pearls and diamonds and crystals. And that one of their highest goals was to cultivate what they call the immortal body. And another name for the immortal body is the diamond body. Oh. It's a body you cultivate through your practices, you know, focus and meditation, and God knows they have a whole lineage of that, you know, practice. But by the time you transform this bundle of energy that you were born with into more condensed, unbreakable, and undestroyable elements, like diamonds. Diamonds are forever, you know. So, but if the person in life does not do this task, at the moment of death, this bundle of energy dissolves again into the field. You know? And Don Juan was telling Carlos Castaneda that if the ordinary human being does not do the same, you know, that a shaman does, they will also be dissolved in the eagle. The eagle or the absolute being will absorb their energy and they will end. There is no continuity. There is no immortality. There is no reincarnation. So they believe in this. And then we have the lineage of the prophets believe, no, we go to hell or heaven. And we have the Tibetan believe in lineage of reincarnation, but not entity. There are so many stories. But for me, that was the first time I encountered diamondness. I was pure awareness, you know, like the pure awareness is like the awareness of a child, you know. A child or a baby comes, looks at the room and sees all the objects, but doesn't have the consciousness of what is what, you know, what is this object for? What does it do? This kind of differentiated wisdom is the diamond dimension. And the crystal dimension is like the baby just being aware of all that there is. It's pure. And pure awareness or a crystal dimension is associated with the crown center and the Mah center above the head, while the diamond frequency and the diamond dimension is associated with the forehead, you know, with the pineal gland, pituitary gland, that they call it, the one in between them, in
between the pineal gland?
Yeah, hypothalamus connecting the.
Oh, okay.
There's pituitary, pineal, and between them there is a bridge, hypothalamus, and they say the diamond body located in that area, you know, and that's what's seen as the third eye, even though the third eye might be felt in the forehead, but its actual activation is in that. So this center produces a frequency, And the frequency can take this raw energy and transform it into a diamond. While the head has a higher, I don't know, generator, a higher chakra or a higher frequency that takes the same material and condense it into crystals. And then you come to the same material and bring it to the heart. The heart also has some kind of a mechanism in it that take that substance and generate from it soft qualities like gold, like mist, like liquids, like variety, you know, oils, all of those things. And then if you come to the belly center and you bring the same chi, the same energy, the belly center, you know, will concretize it, will make it like solid, I don't know, qualities, you know, solid silver, solid gold, solid diamond, solid crystals. So as if, you know, in the old time they used to, my mother put the milk in one of the goats, you know, skin things and shake it, all this to produce butter and to produce milk. And this body does the same thing with the absolute, with this field. This body, psyche, soul, entity, has centers in it that take this undifferentiated field, this undifferentiated matrix, and somehow if we persist in developing this center will transform those this pure field into different kind of frequencies. So this is about this mechanism, this vehicle, this spaceship that's really awesome. You know, this prism that we are, you know, biologically, psychically, spiritually, is an incredible vehicle, you know, that occupies this body and transmute so many frequencies into all kind of feelings and states and sensations and all of those things. So that was my first encounter with the diamond, and I loved it, you know, and I called this entity the diamond body at that time. And every day I'll meditate, let the being cleanse me, and I become the diamond entity. And from the diamond entity, a lot of emanations and energies and dimensions began to open. And some of those dimensions felt like, for example, like dense substances running in the body. You know, could be like pearly, liquid pearl, dense and resilient, and some felt like streams of gold. I look at them, I really see golden color. It wasn't just light. It was as if the light, golden light, was condensed a little bit and became liquid. Mm. And it was liquid light, and then compressed even the liquid light more and became solid gold. I began to see this is magic. I am really going through magic. I am either hallucinating, you know, or as my old therapist said, don't talk like this, they'll put you in a mental hospital, you know. I said, I can't help it. I see it all the time. You know, it's happening, and read here and read there. Then as I got stable, more stable in the vision, holding the view, it became clear that we have a field, and this field of the highest frequencies, the highest frequency you can imagine, you know. And this high frequency, through certain lenses, through certain mechanisms in the universe and in us, takes this frequency of the field and begin to rev it up, and it becomes more palpable frequency. And this palpable frequency can be measured by maybe the instruments we have, or we still don't have those instruments yet. And then those frequencies get even gelled more. You know, it's not just luminous field coming from it, ocean of light. The light itself gets compressed and begin to consolidate into substances, you know, and as if it becomes a diamond, as if you take light, I don't know how, and you compress the light and make a diamond. And this diamond that you make pure light has capacities that affect us as human beings. I don't know whether it affects the animals the same or the trees the same, or it has much more functions than we know now, But I know as a human being that when this diamond manifests in my system, always gives me a capacity of knowing. I know. Sometimes I don't even know what I know. But at least I have the capacity of knowing, So I know this diamond is compressed knowledges. By time, it was like, you know how in the computer you have those sticks, you what they call it, you put the stick in the computer and it downloads a whole movie or a whole knowledge.
Yes.
What do they call it?
Oh, well.
Yeah, those in the computers know about it. Yeah, it's a little chip, or something. You put it in the computer and you can, like now we are taping a whole conversation. You can put it in a stick or something. Each diamond.
We're in the cloud now.
We're in the cloud even, We have upgraded. So this diamond is like that chip. It's condensed knowledge, So if it is, let's say, a green diamond, this green diamond has in it the knowledge of the green frequency of light and the green dimension. That coming from this absolute, there are emanations coming from the absolute, as Don Juan used to say, that from the eagle comes emanations. And those emanations, when they weave and interconnect, they create this reality that we see. So this reality that we see is maybe 5 dimensions or 10 dimensions of interwoven emanations, frequencies coming from the field, from the absolute, And as a scientist, I can understand it. I love it, I can not only understand, but I see it. I see from the source come emanation, and the emanation becoming sheer, pure, clear light. Then clear light begin to get more particles in it, like photons, and becomes light. And the photons congeal more and more and become substances. And the substances get more compressed and become denser solid substances. And they get even more compressed and more congealed. And we have the physical reality. So this physical reality is nothing but condensed absolute, condensed frequency. This I could see, I could experience, I could feel. And being gifted, or I don't know, cursed by the seeing, enabled me to, see things that are so magical, so beautiful, as the poets describe, as the mystics describe, and so scientific, because I know these are frequencies. And the frequencies can be slowed down, and the slowing down of those frequencies might make them gel. Just like, wood, a piece of wood is nothing but frequency. If you burn it, it becomes fire, and fire becomes light, and so it's nothing but congealed, condensed frequency. So all of this physical universe is a manifestation of congealed frequencies. And that was beautiful to see. That was still remarkable to see. That from the absolute, comes these frequencies gelling into this as this material world. In fact, maybe next time I can find it. There was a beautiful saying from the Kabbalah, the Jewish tradition, the Kabbalah, describe the descent and the ascent of the frequencies from the absolute. From the most high, comes through grace and through emanation and condensation and become the material we see. And the material through, invocation or this becomes light again. It's a beautiful, beautiful writing describing the stages of the ascent and the descent, And that can be used not just as spiritual, but it can also be used as scientific. It might zoom and help the scientific mind to look at that some people witnessed the frequencies of creation and how it happened, but didn't have the knowledge to see it, to know it, you know. But having the GPS will help them to focus their mind on how from the Most High descend and become what we perceive, and then what we perceive can dissolve and return to source, you know. And they have gradations in it. And I think science will really see more and more. And the more the scientists open to this magical, enchanting processes of the universe, how it is happening, and that one can experience it in one's own body. All this knowledge that I share and see, and I get validated by different lineages and now scientists, it was pure, direct experience that I had. And it scared the living out of me because I didn't know whether I was really getting insane or I am seeing reality. You know, now I have the certainty. You know, I know that I've been seeing reality, but I don't have the full logos to articulate it. The logos is so immense, and it'll come in scientific logos and in poetical and in psychological and philosophical, you know. And I remember because of that, I chose for the work I'm doing, our work, the diamond logos, in the sense that it's all of these manifestation and gradations are nothing but the manifestation of the divine logos. And I took only one frequency of that divine logos, the diamond frequency, because the diamond frequency helped the articulation, to name the qualities, to define them, to find the obstacles to you know, that the way to reach them, which are usually psychological and physical obscurations. You know? So that all those dimensions I talk about, gold or diamond, or they are actually frequency existing and can be detected. A friend of mine had a machine called the Oberon machine. And the Oberon machine is a frequency machine. I think it was in the original inventor of that science or discovery was Rife, I think, the Rife machine, you know. And he cultivated so much of it, and Tesla cultivated so much of it. Then this knowledge was destroyed here, but carried to Germany, Russia, and some other European countries. And they adapted this knowledge, developed it, and cultivated different machines that can detect the different frequencies, like the different frequencies in the body, the frequencies of the liver, the frequencies of the heart, the frequencies of the cell of the liver, of the DNA of the liver, and how they are different from the frequencies of the heart or the toes, you know. And this machine can detect that, very sophisticated. And I love those things. They are new frontiers. And I tell my friend, this could be the ultimate charlatanism, or we are really at the frontier of discovering the whole universe is just frequencies. And we will know more about how frequency is generated. You know? And I remember that one day he said, I really want to check whether this knowledge you're bringing is real or not. You know? So he brought his Oberon machine to a retreat, you know. He was student and retreat, you know, and he detected the field before the transmission. And we were going to do healing, and he detected the frequency of the field. He put the Oberon machine and detected it. And then we did the prayer, the whole group, praying, meditating, calling upon the divine, calling upon other entities to help us. And the field got so rich. You know, for me as a seer, a sensor, I could see it, feel it, sense it. But the machine detected the frequency of the field rose 68% more. Wow. That much, you know. The group generated energy of healing, you know, and that's part of Graydon talking about we can cultivate those energies. Now science are beginning to detect them. Then he asked me, why don't you download homeopathically the qualities, you know? So he gave me a bunch of bottles of water, and I concentrated on invoking the qualities and transmitting the quality through my hand and being into those bottles. Gold in this bottle, black in this bottle, green in this bottle, oil in this bottle, diamond in this bottle. And he downloaded that frequencies in the Oberon, and the Oberon could detect those different frequencies, you know.
As a result of prayer.
As a
transmission.
No, this is transmission. You know, the other one, prayer, is invocation of the field. Transmission is more like invocation of the field and focusing and commanding, you know. While the prayer is that, you know, thy will be done. This one is that, how about thy will and my will go together? You know, can we negotiate something, you know, which we can with the field. So he got those, and he is you know, a doctor. Clients come to him with cancers and all kind of these things. He uses the Oberon machines and all of those things. He started administering especially with, I remember with the woman was so fascinating. The frequency of the womb of the female has the same frequency as the deep darkness of the void of existence. When the womb is relaxed, you know, the dark luminosity, the deep, Don Juan calls it the dark sea of awareness. That dimension, which is so rich, so beautiful, is associated with the womb of the female. It's associated with the prostate of the male. But the female contains more of it. That's why the female is the embodiment of the endarkenment, and the male is the embodiment of enlightenment. You know, this is radiance and this is deep, because the womb can generate that frequency and can connect the female to this ocean of enlightened being, the great being or endarkened being, you know. And that so many females try to go to the head and shoot out of the head, and it gives them headaches. They need to descend in the womb and go to the center of the earth, and they will find the great being. It's much simpler than all the spiritual gymnastics. It's just the descent, and the female know that, but they were not validated. I hope this get validated, you know. So the female has to do with the black essence, the dark, the luminous. And some of the females that used to come to him either because of cancer or because of irregularity in the womb and all of those things. And he applied the black, and he used to come so excited. He said so much of the symptoms disappeared just like that, by the activation of the frequency of the deep or the black, by putting this homeopathic, you know, bottle in the Oberon machine, and the Oberon machine detect the frequency and send it like a biofeedback to the females, and it took away the contraction and the darkness that comes from holding, and allowed the deep to open. And that opened for me the frontier of someday we will transmit all those states, because they are just frequencies. Gold is a frequency. It's like a stone. Stone is a frequency, you know, made of so many elements. So we will know the frequencies of how the universe is designed and arranged, and we will measure it, and we can transmit it through all kind of, I don't know, instruments. Yeah. I'm very optimistic about the new age, not just golden age, golden diamond age, you know. So when I talk about those states, they are actual qualities that can be detected, can be measured.